having tools. Everyone does it a little bit differently, but I like my calendar.
Okay.
I use my notifications. I use it to know whether or not I have time, and I try to put everything in there that I can, even my downtime and things like that, to remind myself I do need to have a little bit of time for this or that. Because I mean, if I'm one of those people when I get focused on something, I'll just hyper focus. And if I didn't have something being like, oh, you've got this thing coming up,
Mm.
I might keep playing around with my AI that I'm running at my house for a little too long. So I use Outlook to manage my time.
And I think a lot of startup financial, I don't mean startup friends, small business get it wrong is like the financial aspects, right? Like most people don't know about unit metrics and like financial whatever balance sheets. How hard was it, or easy for you to learn all that kind of financial stuff?
I would say that did take a little bit of time. There's like, as far as really knowing what you needed, but I also had the benefit of knowing people that already had their small businesses,
Mm.
that when I got brought on to help them do certain things, they taught me a lot. And then I also I figured this out. I got a little niche. Is I have a lot of CPAs as clients.
Mm-hmm.
And CPAs are required for SOC audits. A lot of people don't know that they SOC every it's everyone talks about SOC audit. This is actually a good example. SOC, 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 SOC. I'm going to sell by SOC this. I'm going to be in SOC. When you really learn that SOC was created by CPAs, that a CPA must sign off on a true SOC audit. And there's level one, level two, level three SOC audits. And SOC, yeah, it's about compliance. As far as my side goes, right? Or for the IT side, it's your AV, your intrusion protection, your data loss prevention, your all of these things, your compliance, password policies, all these things. Those are technical things. But then SOC goes beyond that. Business continuity, ascension, disaster recovery. Like some companies go so far as to having satellite offices that have exact copies of all the equipment they need, and if something happens, they can immediately go to the other location and continue working. And so that is something that, yeah, SOC is a really good example of in a world where business meets tech, because it's CPA is involved because they're going to do financial audits. Like they're looking at your company, or are is there liquid cash flow? Like what's going on, right? But then they're looking at your policies. They're looking at all your SOPs. They're looking at your employee handbook. They're looking at your training requirements. They're looking at your compliance requirements. They're looking at all these things on whether or not you're going to be able to sell this business, or whether or not you're going to be able to merge with another company. Because why would I buy your business if it's crap, right? And how do you prevent a business from being crap? Well, you have policies, you have SOPs. That's why the military works, SOPs. And when you follow an SOP, then it's either the SOP's wrong or not, right? And so you need to be flexible in that ability. You have to have agility, which is why it's one of my core tenets, be able to change when you need to. But you need to follow the SOP, whether you like it or not. And the business side of that, I have CPAs as clients. I'm talking to them all the time. They teach me.
Mm-hmm.
I could just ask them questions, and because I provide really good customer service, they wouldn't charge me for normal things that they would charge someone. Be like, hey, like I would, just casually. One of them, he joined the Eagles with me. Or actually, I brought him on as an Eagle, and he's made so many clients from that alone that I can ask him any complex financial question I want, and
Mm-hmm.
he answers it. And he's a CPA, he's not a bookkeeper, so he actually knows, what he's talking about. And so he taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I leveraged my relationships with professionals. Find someone smarter than you, and just go with what they tell you, right? And so by providing services to CPAs, I could just casually be talking to them about things and learning about trust, learning about profitability, and then I started doing SOC analysis with one of them, because why not, and they just teach me more. Like, hey, we're reviewing the books, and he was like, this is what this means. This is what this means. This is how you project to this. This is how you do that. And so I just got kind of lucky that a certain field of clients happen to be experts in money for business. And I was like, wow, I'm going to learn as much as I can from these people for free.
Do you see a time in the future when like AI robots take over your job?
What I do, yeah, yeah. Um, Except for the people aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of part of what I do is as a leadership. That's the only thing I don't think it can do. Um, so and I don't think like it can be it's motive. You can program a motive for things, but I don't think it will think about competitive advantages or creative competitive advantage. I do that all the time. I don't think it will think about what, how, and when, which is something like we knew the what, like with I need a customer portal, whatever it is. But the how and the when is what makes it succeed. Like I said, if you have an idea for a product and then you launch it and you're not ready to actually support it, the how and the when, you will find failure. And so I don't know if it would be that good on that, and I don't know if it would be as good as like managing relationships. So I don't see AI being able to own a mistake.
Okay.
I don't.
So next let's talk about this. You do something I think is really interesting. Like actually, I agree with it. So as your company, like most companies, they're like, okay, you start with us. You start work with us on August 1st. We give you 21 days vacation. You don't get the 20 days, but you get it until a year later, right? But it's you. Day one, they get all the vacation days, right?
Oh no, we probably got the one of the best packages in
So
Seattle.
can you talk about that process, like how that whole thing came to be, and why you decided to do that?
So we start everyone off with 4 weeks PTO. We also give all holidays, not just federal, and they get 2 floating holidays, and they get 2 volunteer days. That's your starting package just for your thing. We also pay for all
From
of
day
healthcare
one.
from day
Okay.
one. We also pay for healthcare. From that, actually, yep, you get enrolled in that. The only thing you have to wait for is 401k enrollment.
Mhm.
That's 90 days. And then you can contribute into the 401k because that's just legal stuff for sharing out profits, right?
Mhm.
So of the plan that everyone's bought into, but yeah, we start people off that way. As a matter of fact, I had an employee I hired last month, and he's about to go on a month-long vacation, right? And some people are like, "That's insane. What if he doesn't come back?" I was like, "He's coming back." uh, he can't find a work-life balance like we try to offer. I respect my employees. I do not micromanage. I despise micromanagers. I believe micromanagers are passive aggressive, and passive aggressive people are pretty much useless to being efficient. One, they don't communicate well because if they if they were communicating well, then they wouldn't be micromanaging. Okay, I hire adults. I don't hire children, and I expect you to meet deadlines. I don't really. I as a contractor love being 1099 employee because I work when I want to work. I work how I want to work. Basically, you can't tell me whatever, right? So I kind of treat them kind of like that. As far as we give them 2 remote days that they don't have to be in the office, and the only reason we do that is building a building is not that easy, and being remote can cause communication breakdown, and some things have to go very quickly in our industry, and it just literally being able to see the person and have a 5 second chat
Mhm.
versus are you there on a Teams meeting? Let's set up a meeting like for
Well,
me.
I see on the computer screen, but are you actually here, right? Are you
Yeah.
focused on this?
Or it's just like the amount of time wasted trying to set up communication is stupid. Some industries can do that. We can't for some things. We are crunch time for some things. You know, like and they have to be very good with their time because I've told them all like the only expectation we have is deadlines.
Mhm.
So you know, if you don't meet your deadline and there wasn't a really good reason, you might not have a job
Yeah.
because the deadline is clearly established way beforehand. I put in a buffer to the deadline, pencils down, which means that we actually set aside. I have, for any deadline that we have, I have a minimum of 48-hour deadline because the tools we use depend on the internet, and sometimes that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So if you're waiting to do the last of your work that day, and then the vendor like Bluebeam is it's a PDF software that almost everybody in the building world design. It doesn't matter if you're architect, engineer, if you're making buildings, you're using Bluebeam. It's an online based PDF software. Well, last year they went down for a day. They were down. So you weren't getting work done. You better hope your deadline wasn't due that day. So I put in also safeguards to protect that. So if you didn't meet the pencils down, you better be busting your butt to meet the actual deadline. And if you don't meet that deadline, that's the one thing we always meet our deadlines in Atlas. And we do quality work too. So I treat them like adults. And if you treat them like adults, if you give them fair packages, fair compensation, you have empathy. Like I really, leadership is something that is a skill that takes time. Some people are natural leaders in the sense that they're charismatic. Their personality type just allows them to. I'm one of those people. There's the maverick, the maven, and the salesperson.
Yeah.
Right. So the maverick does whatever they want. They do it before anybody else. They set the trend. The salesperson convinces everybody else that what the maverick is doing is cool, and the maven collects people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I realize that when it comes to employees, you're right, the right talent is more important. So the right people, they will amplify your strategies that you have as a company, and the wrong ones will stall it. And I don't hire for today's needs, right? I hire for what's going to happen for tomorrow's challenges. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I'm going to train and build up my employees for the challenges of the future. I pay for their continuing education. I pay for their exams. We had a guy pass his FE exam, gone. He's no longer a draftsman. He's going to go work somewhere else as an engineer, right? So you have to be willing to do that kind of stuff. And I also believe in relationships really do matter. Like I said, you're there with these people more than you are your family. So having the right person is more important. I don't need the best engineer. I don't. I need an engineer that's capable of learning and really can work with their team. And then I like to know that when it comes to brilliance and stuff like that, or finding someone really clever or smart, you can't expand on brilliance or exceptionalism on a shaky foundation. So to make sure that they have a solid foundation, a rock, or your family. Now everyone says, "Oh, we're a company of family." I don't mean it that way because I don't like that, but you gotta give them a good foundation.